Corruption continues to spread out of Middenheim. Karl Franz has fought the Beastmen several times and has finally triumphed in a great victory. It is now time to push up against the Beastmen once and for all and exterminate them. Oleg marches to reinforce the Emperor. Yet there is another threat that looms on the horizon. Up in the forest, the Greenskins have assembled an army and is looking to invade Empire territory further. The settlement must be eradicated. Karl Franz is in camp. He is recruiting further soldiers. He is ready to see what the next day will bring. The Greenskin forces aren't coming in just yet, so there is still time to deal with the threat of the Beastmen and make sure that the land is cleansed of its corruption. Some more soldiers are still needed, so he is going to continue to gather those forces and wait for Oleg to reinforce. He's had enough defeats recently at Helmgart to want to suffer more. Oleg is his trusted warrior in arms, his brother on the battlefield. He is the one who is going to help him see this through. Over in the south, we do want to make sure that Helmgart is fortified. It was being controlled by Oleg, but since he is being brought to the front, this choke point with Bretonnia needs to be held. There has been reports that a giant by the name Grom the Punch has united some of the Greenskin clans and is marching through. He cannot allow them to break through Helmgart into the Empire. It's up to Bretonnia to deal with them by themselves. Previously, the King of Bretonnia, Louen Leoncoeur, did break his non-aggression pact with the Emperor. So the Emperor is kind of peeved right now at Bretonnia. It is one of the cracks in his mental health that may doom the Empire if more problems come. Stirland has been impressed with the Emperor's conviction to put the Empire back together. They are heavily threatened by the vampire counts, the von Karsteins, who are pushing out of Sylvania and taking a good chunk out of the eastern part of the Empire. They do want to swear their fealty and confederate with the Emperor, but the Emperor is not quite ready to go in that direction and handle the vampires. He still has other issues to deal with closer. He wants to deal with this corruption that is spreading from the Beastmen. He wants to be able to eliminate this Greenskin threat. So for now, he wants Stirland to hold off the vampires on their own as best that they can.
Sigmarite Archlector.
Oleg is getting ever closer, but he does have to be wary as he is in the land of corruption. There is disease that is going to start spreading in his army. There's going to be beastmen coming out of the forest and snatching those who are not wary. And the Greenskins have come a little bit again into the Empire territory in order to do some raiding. The nearby villages are a little perturbed at this change of circumstance, but for now, the Emperor is going to hold off. He still needs a bit bigger army, and he does want to deal with those beastmen first. He does have the resources now to start his improvements to the Fortress of Helmgarts, while the Greenskins under Gromberpunch have fled a little bit from the border. There is still a sizable force there that he needs to be wary about.
I command here.
Balthasar Gelt has sent one of his representatives to Reichland in order to complain about an investment that the Emperor had said was a sure deal that would benefit them both, but it has turned sour. The Emperor has promised to do nothing. He's already annoyed with the elector counts and the rebellions that have happened. Surely the wizard Balthasar Gelt can sustain this loss. He had his own choices he could make. It's not the Emperor's place to pay back if something goes wrong. Through tireless effort, Oleg and the Emperor have started to mend the land. It is a little bit more safer to travel along. There is a good force here that has been recruited by Oleg. He is going to march his army to the front as quickly as possible to meet with the Emperor so that they can finally march on Middenheim and rebuild the city back to its former glory.
True servant of Sigmar.
With the brothers in arms assembled together at long last, they are going to consolidate their forces together and march on Middenheim.
The nation calls.
The Emperor is going to march alone. His scouts report that the remaining war hosts of the Beastmen is not particularly strong, and they are worried about that Greenskin potential invasion, so they are going to split up their forces and allow Oleg to stay behind to protect Weismund. Investment needs to continue in Reichland to make sure that the Empire is ready to continue to face the threats that are going to march to it. The Emperor rests one more time before he can finally reclaim the butchered city of Middenheim and bring it back as a glorious imperial city. Kislev has reached out. The great Tsarina Katerin is asking for a trade agreement. The Emperor is pleased to accept them after so many have turned their back on him. It is good to know that he still has an ally in Kislev, especially with the eastern part of the Empire having largely fallen to the trees that have come out of the grove, as well as the vampires out of Sylvania taking the eastern part of the Empire. Having that additional friend in the east is going to be highly valuable. Nordland has come under attack from the Beastmen. Perhaps their attention has changed from Middenland up to the northern parts of the Empire. The Emperor has been pleased with the Elector Count of Nordland's ability to hold off those northern raiders from Norska. He is going to help by sending a military force to protect them. With the additional forces, it is an easy victory over the Beastmen. Hopefully that does weaken their numbers enough so that the battle for Middenlands is going to be all the easier. The scouts report that there has been another army that has come against the orcs, an army from the trading city of Marienburg has marched up and defeated the Greenskin threat and is marching on their fortress of the Black Pit. With that attention now no longer divided, Oleg is being requested to reinforce the Emperor on the front line against the Beastmen. And as it happens, Kazrak, One Eye, has also shown his face again. This is going to be the final showdown between the Emperor and Kazrak. Deep in the forest, the Emperor has finally found the source of the corruption of the Beastmen. He has found where their lair is, and he is going to eliminate it once and for all. The Beastmen know that there's more reinforcements on the way from Oleg, so they are marching forward quickly to catch the Empire off guard. Deep in the forest here, there is not enough room to maneuver Karl Franz's cavalry, so they are not going to be a major factor in this battle, and he knows it. His front line needs to hold fast, where he can have his crossbow shooting over top of the Beastman horde that is coming down on him. He simply needs to hold out long enough for his trusted friend Oleg to reinforce, at which point their combined forces will be able to overwhelm the Beastmen with ease. Oleg's army made it in time, and with reinforcements on the field, it should only be a matter of time for the corruption and Kazrak to be utterly annihilated.
For the Empire! Now! Halberdiers! Take the ground! Militia!
For the twin-tailed comet! Ready for orders! Footmen! Quick march!
Let the fields be sown with enemy blood!
Faith is my shield! Crossbowmen! The Heldenhammer!
Ready for war! See to it!
Kazrak broke through the front lines and got into the crossbows of Karl Franz and the Empire. The battle overall is going well, but it is bloodier than expected. The Empire will prevail. And victory is achieved. Emperor Karl Franz breathes a deep sigh of relief as the land is taking a step towards being cleansed, and it will be whole once again. His great friend Oleg stood beside him on the battlefield, and together they will bring peace and balance to the Empire once again. The Emperor orders that the forests be burned to the ground. He does not want to risk any bit of corruption standing there. He does not want to rebuild the great city of Middenheim on solid foundations where beastmen could still be roaming, where they could still come back and cause problems. He wants the corruption completely and utterly purged. With that destroyed, his attention can now turn to other matters. Though greenskins still need to be annihilated, they have the fortress of the Black Pit in the forests. They have Middenstag that is still under greenskin domination. The city still stands, but it isn't exactly flourishing. He needs to be able to free that city. And then further north, there are northern invaders coming from Norska that he does have to deal with. He is pleased that he was able to have that battle with Oleg. He was in a dark place, but now that his friend is back at his side and he is achieving victory after victory, he is ready to see the Empire back under its full glory. He doesn't entirely trust the Elector Counts just yet, aside from Nordland and Stirland and a bit of Averland, but he is pleased that he has new friends in Kislev, even as his old friends, the dwarves of Karazakarak and Luen-Leoncoeur, were abandoning him. He will not forget those slights against the Empire, but for now he must still make sure that his own borders are secure. Just as things were looking up for the Empire, the Wood Elves, led by Durthu, have declared war. They have eliminated the dwarves in the mountains, and they are ready to march down into the Empire. Whatever is driving them, they must be eliminated and driven back into their forest. They cannot be allowed to maintain their threat along those mountains. Just as Stirland, Nordland has also now come to the Emperor, saying that he is proud of what the Emperor has accomplished thus far and wants to swear full fealty. The Emperor is ready to march to the north and reclaim those lands anyway, so he is ready to accept them under his banner directly and take control of their armies. With them now at his side, he has to take stock of his current situation. He has a much larger army that he now has to support, and he has to make sure that he's able to do it. You can see that Nordland did take Wrecker's Point back from the Greenskins. The Greenskins are continuing to lose their control, but there are Nordland armies that are going to be under assault soon. There is a string of settlements across that northern sea with armies of angry Norskins assembling. There are Nordland armies that are there ready to deal with them, so he is going to hold steady and try to use those armies to defend the coast, while he, along with Oleg, defends the south and destroys the Greenskins. He needs to be able to pivot back towards the mountains to hold against Durthu and reclaim the mountains so that they're no longer a threat against the Empire. He no longer has the finances available in order to raise a new army, so he is going to have to let one of the armies in the north go so that he can recruit one down in the south in Ubersreich. one of Oleg's friends, Gregor Klaus, is going to be selected. He is a great, noble person who he
Warrior of
guarantees
Sigmar.
can be relied on.
Champion of the faith.
They will raise what forces they can.
I command here.
And the Emperor is going to march against Middenstag
No
with
peace,
Oleg.
just war.
He wants to keep them close together under Oleg's advice
Then we must
so that the
attack.
Emperor does not start to
Awaiting
become
orders.
darkened
I live
again.
to serve the Emperor.
Oleg is the only thing that is truly keeping him sane. So with Middenstag now back under the Emperor's control, he is ready to take a look at the Black Pit and eliminate the green skin threat once and for all in the middle of the Empire. A great migration comes out of Bretonnia, seeking entry into the Empire. They see the destruction that Grom the Paunch has had in Bretonnia, and they have seen the great strides that the Emperor has taken to protect the people of the Empire. But he wants nothing to do with this migration. Bretonians need to take care of themselves. In the meantime, there are also ways to improve the Emperor's standing among the Elector Counts. He is going to take the advantage when he can. It's time to turn his attention towards the politics of the Empire now that it is becoming more stable in the western borders. It is also time to reclaim Middenheim and rebuild it. He doesn't
Ready.
quite have the
Moving
resources just yet, so he is going to wait a little bit. Oleg is going to oversee the reconstruction of Middenstag and make sure that it is nice and
Champion
stable
of the
so that they
faith.
can move out towards the Black Pit.
Awaiting orders.
Make
With
haste,
more
men.
resources secured, the Emperor is going to
The
start the
nation calls.
reconstruction of Middenheim.
What? Praise be to
Oleg
Sigmar.
has done well overseeing Middenstag. He is going to
True
stay
servant
there a
of
little
Sigmar.
bit longer before rejoining the Emperor to make their push against the Black Pit. In the south, Durthu has not moved out from the mountains just yet, and the reports are that there's actually a corrupting force in his forests that is preventing him from moving out. It could be the same plague that has spread from the middle of the Empire that has now reached its way all the way into the mountains. If that's the case, that could be a blessing in disguise, but how did it reach that far? It is something that needs to be looked into soon. That plague continues to have wider and wider reaches. The Empire is again going to war with itself. The Emperor has become maddened at the Elector Counts. Oleg urges him to stop the war and to maintain the peace, but the Emperor simply does not care. These two factions are both ones that have drawn his ire. Talablakland is weak, while Wizenland has already stated their intent to want to break free. He kept them in line once before already, and now he is not ready to do anything. They can fight it out, and he will deal with the victor later when he has more resources available to him.
Ready to serve.
Oleg
Guided by
marches up
Sigmar.
to join the Emperor. He is going to stay
Bring
in
me to my
Middenheim
men.
a little bit longer to make sure that it is able to grow. It
Summon
needs
the
a little
Elector
bit more
Counts.
resources before it can really start to flourish again, and he doesn't want to leave prematurely. Durthu has made his march out of the mountains. He is going to have to be intercepted in some way, or a defensive position will have to be found. His forces are too strong to deal with by Gregor in the open field. Meanwhile, in the north, an army of Norskins have made their way across the channel to Dirtenschaffen. Theodric is going to have to reinforce the city.
Yes, my lord. It is for the
And
best.
he chooses to engage directly the threat.
Council!
In the cold north of the Empire, Theodric leads his forces against the invading forces of Norska. He is a simple man that leads from the rear and makes sure that his soldiers do what is needed. His soldiers are dominated by crossbows and archers. A long line is deployed in the back to deal with the Norskin raiders who prefer quick hit-and-run tactics on their mounted steeds. With range superiority, the Empire has forced the Norskins to come to them. He hopes that he is able to maintain a strong front line from which he can use to pepper the enemy from afar. He can already see his flanks are going to be overwhelmed and needs to adjust his positioning. His crossbows are making short work of the skirmishing cavalry that the Norskins bring to the fields. They have no choice but to try to engage quickly before their forces are completely overrun.
Spearman! General! Crossbowman! Yes, General! Spot us the target! By Ulrich's wrath! Spot us the target! Taken! We are Sigmar's heirs! Withdraw!
We stand knee-deep in corpses!
The front of the Empire line collapses. While the ranged crossbows and archers are doing their job, it doesn't seem to be enough to withstand the onslaught of the pure barbaric ferocity of the Norskins.
Withdraw! Don't give them an inch! Finding range, sir! Crossbowman! At speed! Taking aim! Sigmar calls! Take position!
The Empire is not able to hold on to the northern coast and they are defeated, opening the path for the Norskins to attack the settlement and gain a foothold in Empire territory. The Empire is not pleased with this result. Many enemies were killed in the battle. The Emperor, when he receives word of the defeats, can only hope that enough were killed so that the remaining soldiers in the settlement will be able to deal with them. Otherwise, he fears that between the raiders in the north and Durthu marching out from the southwest, that the Empire is back into a problematic situation which he cannot deal with all at once. He has to very quickly deal with the greenskin threat so that he can turn his attention appropriately to the other threats that are with the Empire.
Summon the Elector Counts. I see no other option. Step to it.
Praise be to Sigmar.
The goal had been to start the rebuilding of Middenheim, but with the threats in the south, there's no choice but to make sure that there is enough resources for an army to be quickly brought forward to deal with the threat that Durthu poses to the freshly reunited Reichland. He cannot let it fall apart that quickly. It would send a poor message to the rest of the Elector Counts that the Emperor is not able to properly maintain his own borders, and if he can't be trusted with his own borders, how can he be trusted with the protection of the entire Empire? The Norskins are in fact forced to retreat as they do not have enough soldiers left to continue their assault against the Empire. Despite a defeat on the battlefields, it was a victory for the defense of the Empire as a whole. In the south, Durthu makes it clear that his target is the city of Grunberg. It is lightly defended and it will not be able to hold out by itself.
Word is my command.
The Emperor has no choice but to consider it a lost cause. He orders the evacuation of the city so that as many people can survive as possible, while he continues to muster an additional force in Ubersreich. If Durthu does conquer Grunberg, he will be in the middle between Altdorf and Ubersreich. Altdorf has the resources to defend itself, whereas the force that is being risen in Ubersreich should also be able to hold. So it will have to be a sacrifice made in order for the greater good. In the meantime, the Emperor is marching forward against the Black Pit.
Warrior of Sigmar.
He orders Oleg to march forward first, and he comes in behind to try to draw out the enemy from the settlements. And it works, but Oleg has been held up. He's not able to reinforce this battle. Karl Franz thinks carefully as to whether or not he wants to do this. He concludes that he has not had the best luck without Oleg at his side. He wants his brother-in-arm on the battlefield alongside him, so he retreats for the time being to make sure that they can assault together.
Archlector. Heldenhammer.
I will marshal the men.
As expected, the city of Grunberg does come under attack by the spirits of the forest. The soldiers of the Empire fight valiantly to buy what time they can to complete the evacuation, but they are killed to a man. The Emperor marks this occasion with a grand festival throughout the Empire to mark the heroism of the Empire soldiers giving their lives for the people of the Empire. The Golden Order has reported of more Skaven activity, this time along the southern border of the Empire in Fort Sol. Karl Franz does not have the finances to be able to launch a military force of his own while Durthu is already in the area causing havoc. But he will hire some nearby mercenaries in order to help with the defense. That fort is the only thing that is defending that southern border, with the east, the north, and now the southwest already under threat. He can't allow that fort to fall. The siege was already underway when the mercenary force arrived in Fort Sol to help with the defense. The Skaven were attacking the walls, trying to break them down to allow their force inside the forts. The valiant defenders were already there on the walls, firing back. The Emperor's mercenaries rush to the wall to help to support. The right side of the defense is weak, so that is where the force was sent in order to help secure that right flank.
Awaiting orders! Quick march! Take the ground! Quick march! Understood! Yes, sir! Quickly! Kill everything!
Despite the machines of war and the monstrosities that the Skaven brought to the battlefields, they were defeated handily. They were no match for Empire soldiers. Every incursion of these rat things are going to be pushed back. They have no place in the Empire, no hope against the bravery of Empire soldiers. The Emperor receives words that Talabekland has been eliminated. as well as the Black Pit tribe of the Orcs. He takes stock of his current situation, as Marienburg is the ones who dealt with the Greenskins of the Black Pit. In the north, the Norskin invaders were pushed back, and the northern front is secure. Next to Reichland, it is plagues that destroyed the Elector Count in Kempervad. It was not the war with Weissenland. Something is going to have to be done very, very soon. And Durthu is in Grunberg, isolated between Altdorf and Ubersreich. He is going to have to choose where his doom will be decided. The Empire, western and northern fronts are largely secure, and Emperor Karl Franz now gets to decide which threats he pursues next in his reclamation of the Empire and making sure it has a strong and bright future.